The Philippines is not giving up in asserting its sovereignty in the West Philippine Sea. Good morning, I'm Gerg Cahiles and this is At the Forefront. The Armed Forces of the Philippines welcomes the House Special Committee on the West Philippine Sea's approval of House Bill 8673. The bill seeks to provide hazard pay to civilian government personnel deployed or serving in the strategic waterway. It also seeks to provide insurance coverage, medical and psychological services, and maritime safety training for civilian personnel assigned to the WPS. Let's get details on this and the latest situation in our territorial waters. We'll be speaking with Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad. He's the AFP spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea. Well, good morning, Rear Admiral.
Morning, George. Good morning sa mga taga-subaybay mo for this morning.
All right, sir. Firstly, you recently retired from the service.
April 23.
Oh, well, and we're seeing you now here and speaking on behalf of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Well, kung tutuusin, sir, pwede ka nang magpahinga, enjoy your retirement. But what happened?
What happened is I retired officially. So for all intents and purposes, I'm now a private citizen. But all retirees are incorporated into the reserve force. As a reservist, I was still given directives to function as the AFP and Navy spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea. So that role I perform as a Philippine Navy reservist. Every Tuesday sa ating press conference sa Camp Aguinaldo, I wear the uniform. And of course, when I have interviews like this.
Hindi ba kayo nawiweirdan lang sa idea na, you're already a civilian and yet you continue serving sa military and then continuing your advocacy sa ating territories dyan sa West Philippine Sea?
It's something new for the AFP. But I'd like to cite the Secretary of Defense when he said that we welcome anybody who would like to speak not only for the AFP, the ND, even the country, to amplify our stand on the West Philippine Sea. So it's about time na it's a change in paradigm, in approach. We have to show the Filipino people na ito ay atin ito. Ang laban is for all of us, hindi lamang sa AFP. So everybody could chip in their own share, even private individuals.
Why is it so important for you?
Because the threat we face is intergenerational, it is existential. It will transcend our generation, George. It is existential because what is at stake is yung kinabukasan ng ating bansa. Baka later on tagpi-tagpi na Pilipinas ang maipamana natin. Baka yung ating mga ibang features sa West Philippine Sea o sa Northern Islands or parts of the country ay hindi na natin kasama in the next generation. So, importante maintindihan ng bawat Pilipino ito.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the recent bill that was passed sa committee level po. No? Because the AFP is backing the proposed hazard pay bill for personnel deployed in the West Philippine Sea. Anong ibig sabihin po nitong endorsement na ito para sa inyo? Bakit po sinusuportahan nyo ito when in fact, uniformed personnel are already receiving this hazard pay from the government? Yung mga civilian, bakit sila kailangan meron din?
Yes, because we have to understand, George, yung AFP, depending on your assignment, on your specialization, we get additional pay. So let's say for those who have extra skills in diving, in jumping in airborne, or other fields of the AFP, get incentive pay. It's a first time that even our civilian members of the bureaucracy of government, not only of the AFP and DND, but the entire bureaucracy would get an incentive pay, and this time it's for the West Philippine Sea. It's a very good message by the government to show that hindi lamang ito laban ng AFP, but even anybody in government who gets assigned there, who does work there. We're speaking of law enforcement people. We're speaking of scientists, researchers, part of the government bureaucracy, civil bureaucracy.
Pag sinabi po nating law enforcement, researchers,
scientists,
we're talking about which agencies po ito?
Other government agencies. Let's say from DOE. Let's say from DepEd, yung mga teachers doon. We now have more than 400 people sa Kalayaan Municipality. May mga teachers doon and other instrumentalities of government who are on Pagasa Island. By showing that we are giving you extra pay, insurance or other benefits, it highlights the government's approach that your services are important, are critical for that municipality of Kalayaan on Pagasa Island. It shows that it's now a whole of government effort to protect our maritime rights.
But syempre sir, ang idea kasi pag may hazard pay, talagang may panganib na hinaharap yung mga tao dyan sa bahagi ng West Philippine Sea. So has the situation evolved more now? Magkaiba na po ba yung talagang sitwasyon that people assigned there has to, they need to receive hazard pays from the government para ma-entice din sila na, sige, pupunta ako dyan, I will allow myself to be part of the services being offered by the government sa West Philippine Sea.
The assignment itself, George, is not normal. You're more than 200 miles from mainland Palawan. If you speak of the main island, Pagasa, it's around 218, 220 nautical miles.
Isolated ka na kaagad.
Isolated ka na kaagad. Yung travel pa lang papunta doon, by air or by sea, is already hazardous in nature. You are subject to the elements of the weather. When you go out to our features, you are subject to the coercive and aggressive actions of the Chinese Communist Party, the Maritime Militia, or the Coast Guard, sometimes the PLA. So it's not a not normal assignment. They get to face the same risks that the AFP faces. So it's about time that they should also be recognized by government. And that's why we support this bill.
No, sir, some critics may ask, if government is now institutionalizing hazard pay for the West Philippine Sea deployment, are we somehow indirectly admitting that confrontations with China are no longer isolated incidents, but a reality that we face every day there in the West Philippine Sea?
They have been there since 1992, although in very subtle forms. The first messaging was these are fishermen shelters we're constructing. 1995, they barred entries to our Philippine Navy ships on Mischief Reef. They started reclaiming. They started doing more coercive and aggressive actions, laser pointing, dangerous maneuvers, not only on sea but even on air. Not only to the AFP, the Navy, the Air Force, or the Army, but even to law enforcement agencies or bureaus, Coast Guard, BFAR. And this is a pattern, George, not only in the West Philippine Sea. It's a global pattern of coercive and aggressive actions conducted by the Chinese Communist Party.
Sir, si US President Donald Trump recently visited China, no? Kasama niya yung kanyang armada ng mga negosyante, di ba? But isa sa mga glaring points that he mentioned there was that he's not in favor of Taiwan's independence. What does that say with the regional issue, conflict, especially sa Pilipinas? Ano ba yung posibleng epekto nito sa atin, no? Especially that we are also somehow we are in partnership with the United States in terms of ensuring the freedom of navigation doon sa area ng West Philippine Sea.
I would like to address it this way, George. The Taiwan issue has its own dynamics. The Philippine issue with the Chinese Communist Party has its own dynamics. For the Philippine setting, maliwanag ang sinabi ng ating treaty ally. The alliance or the partnership is ironclad. Ibig sabihin, the MDT, yung ating pagiging treaty allies, that will remain. And the provisions of the MDT are there, how to support each other. Secondly, both sides support international law. Very strong naman ang US that when it comes to international law, we are on the right side. We have the arbitral tribunal ruling on our side.
Yes.
So that will not change. Whatever happens on Taiwan could provide us a microcosm or a snapshot of their approach towards Taiwan, which may not be totally applicable to the Philippines. Sa atin naman, if you look at the defense partnership, it's expanding. Defense diplomacy has been very strong with our current secretary. So fast with 5 and more coming. So it's on the upscale. And it doesn't mirror your statement about Taiwan.
Oo nga sir, kasi parang for some critics, no, or critics or some analysts, no, they're seeing a possible dilly-dallying sa part ng United States in supporting Taiwan. Pero the idea is that baka ganito rin yung gawin nila sa Pilipinas kapag may issue ng China.
The dynamics are different. We are a sovereign state.
Okay.
They're not yet a sovereign state. They are not a sovereign state.
In terms of the international
community.
Community.
So the way the US deals with Taiwan is different from dealing with the Philippines. Atin maliwanag. The commitment is ironclad. Balikatan just finished. The most diverse, the largest. It will expand in scope in the coming years. More participant countries, Canada, for the first time, Japan. This will increase further as the years go on. So it only speaks of stronger defense ties, not only with the U.S., but even our partner and like-minded nations.
Okay. Now,
Totally different from the Taiwan issue.
well, speaking of the stronger ties, defense ties with the United States, is this the reason why the United States is also helping, refurbishing some of our facilities here in the Philippines right now? But before you answer that, Rear Admiral Trinidad, at the forefront, will be back after a short break. Welcome back at the forefront. We continue our conversation with Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad. He's the AFP spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea. Now, sir, we were talking about the refurbishing, the developments being done by the United States in various facilities of the Philippines, or the Philippine military, which are part of the Enhanced Defense Cooperating Agreement. Ano? Recently, I've seen doon sa U.S. Naval Institute that the United States is proposing to help build the Buliluyan Port, a Philippine Coast Guard maintenance facility, and upgrade a fuel depot in Palawan. Now, from your perspective, from the Armed Forces perspective, how strategically significant are these seemingly support facilities?
First and foremost, we speak of EDCA sites. These are under the Department of War or DND sa atin. If you speak of the Coast Guard, it's a different agency. But for the DND AFP side, 9 EDCA sites. These are joint use bases of the Philippines. They belong to us. They could be used jointly by the U.S. and the Philippines in times of crisis. They need to be enhanced to be able to accommodate modern hardware, modern capabilities, ships or aircraft. They have been used in the past recently to support and sustain our HADR effort during typhoons. Up north, naging staging area, not only for US but even international aid coming in. So ito naman ang gamit ng EDCA sites. When it comes to the Coast Guard, there was a proposal from the US side to put up a repair facility. This will be, I believe, this will again be joint use for US Coast Guard and Philippine Coast Guard. It's a welcome move because this will allow the Philippine Coast Guard to be able to project their forces longer in the West Philippine Sea, and instead of coming back to their normal bases or stations for repair and maintenance, which would be in Manila or maybe in Cebu,
Doon na lang.
doon na lang. And it's on the western part of Palawan, so hindi ka na iikot uli going back to Puerto Princesa.
Now, sir, syempre ang Palawan, kilala natin yan as last frontier, magagandang beach, but Palawan is increasingly being described as a frontline strategic hub in the West Philippine Sea. And has the security value of Palawan fundamentally changed over the last few years because of the tensions with
Yes,
China?
of course. We look at Palawan as the forefront of the forefront. Internationally, the Philippines, because of our geographical position, we are at the forefront of Chinese expansionism in the western part of the Indo-Pacific. We are part of the first island chain. Sa Philippine setting naman, Palawan is at the forefront. Sapagkat ito ang western frontier na humaharap sa ating features sa West Philippine Sea.
Yes.
All our forces that operate in the West Philippine Sea are staged from Palawan.
Oo. Pero sir, given that, kasi syempre, dahil nagde-develop din yung US sa EDCA sites, tsaka sa iba't ibang position or areas dyan sa Palawan, hindi ba parang sinasabi or pinapatunayan nito yung sinasabi ng China na ginagamit ng US itong Palawan o Pilipinas as its staging area in that area sa West Philippine Sea?
The same argument I could throw back to the Chinese Communist Party. Nang himasok sila sa ating maritime zone sa West Philippine Sea. So tatapatan mo lang yan. And being a treaty ally, ayaw ng US na mapabayaan tayo when it comes to support and sustainment of our forces. They would rather invest today to ensure peace than for both sides to go towards crisis or maybe even conflict. So the investment is very strong right now to ensure that peace will remain. It's a very strong deterrent factor to show the adversary, nandito kami, we are willing to help the Philippines develop her own capabilities. for support and sustainment.
We're seeing it as a deterrent, not a possible siguro trigger para mas maging sabihin natin mas active yung Chinese military sa West Philippine Sea.
Yes, if we go back in history, George, states that have no capability to defend themselves, yun ang nilulusob. So, it's contrary to the argument of the Chinese Communist Party that we are playing with fire, that the U.S., the Philippine Alliance, is creating trouble in the West Philippine Sea and the South China Sea. It's the other way around. Because historically, yung mga bansang mahihina ang sinasakop. Yung mga bansang malalakas, mag-ingay lang yung adversary, but hindi sinasakop. That is one narrative that has to be driven to the Filipino people. Sapagkat naistibagin ng Partido Komunista ng China sa isip ng bawat Pilipino that the alliance is weak.
Okay. Now, sir, syempre may mga sinasabi ngayon na well, they're encouraging tourists to visit Pagasa Island na nasa West Philippine Sea, ang ating sentro ng gobyerno dyan sa bahaging yan ng Palawan. So, what's your take on that, sir?
Yes, it's a very good move.
Bakit?
Because hindi lamang military nasa Pagasa. This is for all intents and purposes a local government unit of the Philippines. Merong iba't ibang ahensya doon, hindi lang DND, AFP. We have DepEd, education, may mga eskwelahan doon. May eskwelahan doon. We need Department of Health. We need tourism. We need local government. In short, all instrumentalities of government are or should be present on Pag-asa.
Pero sir, hindi ba risky masyado to, for a tourist, a civilian to visit? Ngayon nga, may move nga tayo na bigyan ng hazard pay yung mga government employees.
Yung mga tourists naman, they would like to explore yung mga spots na medyo, di ba, naiiba. In fact, yung Malaysia, what they did, yung one of their features, they made it into a world-class dive resort. Yung layang-layang resort. Tourists go there by plane. They stay there, they dive, they enjoy the place, and then they leave after a week. The same thing could be done sa ating features sa West Philippine Sea, sa Pag-asa. So it's a very good move by government to open up Pag-asa to tourism. It is slowly showing the world that hindi lamang ito military outpost o military detachment.
No, sir, kasi last year, kung tama yung pagkaalala ko, si US War Secretary Pete Hegseth, he talked about this unmanned surface vessel operations. Na-transfer na ba nila sa atin yan? Nabigyan na ba tayo ng ganito? And ano itong ginagawa niyang unmanned vessels dyan sa West Philippine Sea?
Let me take 1 or 2 steps back.
Okay, sir.
And then to zoom out. If you look at the development of technology, ang bilis. We don't have to look far. You look at Ukraine war, look at the Middle East. Unmanned systems, because of the development of technology, has now been at the forefront of conflict. Ang advantage nito is we don't expose too much our men and women when we use autonomous and unmanned systems. The Secretary of Defense has mentioned that the AFP should now start looking into this. May deliberate effort na tayo dyan. It's an asymmetric approach. It's a special operation approach. Ika nga, it's not the conventional approach. But there's a lot to be gained to that. So part of our development with the US and other like-minded nations is to capacitate the AFP with autonomous and unmanned systems.
Pero meron na po tayo nito.
We have already the initial.
Okay.
I mean, the plans are there.
Okay.
The initial capability is there. We need to train the people.
Okay.
Dapat yung ating systems must be able to integrate the unmanned systems with the manned systems. Yun ang nililay natin
Ano
ngayon.
po yung magiging specific role nito sa operations natin sa West Philippines?
Enablers.
Okay.
It will multiply our capability.
Okay.
Mas malayo ang ma-reach natin, mas malawak ang ma-cover natin. We don't have to send, let's say for example,
In terms of patrolling, ganyan? Or
patrolling or maritime domain awareness, knowing what's out there. Instead of sending the ship out there na masama ang panahon, we can send out unmanned systems. Anything that happens to it, kung lumubog man itong unmanned boat o yung aerial drone, nag-crash, walang risk. Human
magastos
factor.
din yun, sir. Magastos din yun.
Magastos, but walang halaga ang buhay ng ating mga kasundaluhan.
That's correct.
So it's a very strong enabler or multiplier of our capability in the Philippine Navy and the entire AFP.
Now, aabot ba sa point, sir, na magagamit ito for surveillance, among other things, dyan sa bahagi ng West Philippine Sea?
When we speak of surveillance, we're talking of maritime domain awareness.
Okay.
Yun ang isa sa mga pinakamalaking contribution ng unmanned systems. Right now, our sensors are land-based, air-based, ship-based. and we have to some extent space-based. But if we have unmanned systems, we could further our reach. We could cover more area and stay out there longer. Ibig sabihin, mas malaman natin what's happening out there if we take advantage of autonomous and unmanned systems.
Now, sir, it is important that at this point, no, Rear Admiral Trinidad, na we have a stronger stance pagdating sa ating maritime domain, no, lalo na dyan sa West Philippine Sea. But let's talk about beyond 2028. Kasi alam naman natin that in every administration, there are differences in the approach as to how we are going to maintain yung ating mga teritoryo, especially in the West Philippine Sea. And we've seen that siguro from the previous administration, from the Duterte to the Marcos administration. But what's the plan beyond 2028? What do you think?
Without being political and without speculating, our government timeline is 6 years. But yung mandate ng ating AFP is based on the Constitution. It is not covered by a 6-year admin timeline.
Okay.
It is enduring. Ibig sabihin yung nakasulat sa ating Constitution that the mandate of the AFP to protect the integrity of the national territory, to protect our sovereignty, and to look after the welfare of the Filipino people. Regardless sino nakaupo o anong policy direction ng gobyerno, the AFP looks at the Constitution na ito yung ating dapat gawin, ito yung ating mandato. So magpapatuloy lamang tayo bilang isang professional armed force to perform our mandate as based on the Constitution.
Pero sir, as the Commander-in-Chief ng Armed Forces, kapag nagbabago nga yung policies, how do you take that? Paano tinitake ng military yun? Siyempre, nagkakaiba-iba tayo ng perspective. Baka siyempre iba yung stance ng military, iba yung point nila, pero iba rin yung pananaw ng presidente. How do you reconcile that point?
Again, before I answered Sir George, I said that I don't want to sound political or be politicking, and I don't want to speculate. What I would like to lay is that maliwanag sa AFP yung ating mandate. And this is derived from the Constitution. It is supported by domestic and international law. UNCLOS, yung Arbitral Tribunal, and the other local laws. The Constitution is there as the anchor. So we derive our mandate from that.
Now, Rear Admiral Trinidad, at the heart of all this is a difficult question. Can the Philippines realistically defend its interests in the West Philippine Sea without a strong U.S. security role, or has a geography and geopolitics already made that partnership unavoidable?
We could and we will defend not only the West Philippine Sea, but the entire country against all threats.
With or without the US
foreign
support?
or domestic. Tayo lang, Pilipino. We have proven this in history. Dugo, pawis at luha ang binuhos ng ating mga bayaning Pilipino. This will be the same story, whether in the West Philippine Sea or in internal conflict. And I would like to say, recently, yung ating mga piloto, we lost 2 pilots, student pilots. God bless their families. It's part and parcel of the job. Other countries come in and support us because they believe in our stand. We have the treaty with the U.S., the Mutual Defense Treaty. The U.S. mentioned it is ironclad. We believe, I know that they will stand up to that. Their support for us is because we stand up for international law. Hindi tayo nahimasok sa ibang lugar. Wala na inaangkin na hindi atin. But if push comes to shove, kung tayo lamang, we welcome the challenge. Yung AFP natin is full of stories ng ating mga bayani. Not only in the Philippines, but even in other foreign theaters. Yultong in Korea, Vietnam. We have had sent delegations of support to during the Iraq War. The Filipino soldier, sailor, airman, and marine will welcome that opportunity. Kung tayo lang. Yaman nga lang, George, maraming nais tumulong sa atin. We also welcome their support.
We welcome them all.
We welcome them.
All right. Well, with that, sir, thank you very much. Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad, retired, and now a reservist of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Thank you for your time, sir. The Philippine Armed Forces must not let its guard down in the West Philippine Sea as Chinese vessels continue to trespass into our territorial waters. We need all the help we can get to effectively assert our sovereignty. Let us continue to support the Armed Forces of the Philippines in protecting our waters. Be informed, be insightful of the news. I'm Gerg Cahiles. Always stay at the forefront.